Hello, hi, okay. I'm excited for today's episode. Welcome to the I Just Want to Chat podcast. It's been, a wild couple weeks. I've been traveling to and from, but I'm excited to be here today. And there were a couple things that we could have talked about. We could talk about the Emmys, but the Emmys were just kind of like meh. Like somebody said in a comment on my Instagram that like the Emmys could have just been sent in an email this year, and that's how I feel. Like the show wasn't that exciting. The awards weren't that exciting. I feel like The Bear kind of puts a damper on things because of the category of fraud and stuff. It runs as a comedy, but it really should probably be in the drama category. So then like the fun comedy awards, like you just like weren't really rooting for anything because everything seemed like kind of a foregone conclusion. But then there was the surprise of Hacks winning Best Comedy over The Bear, which was interesting. But that I feel like it just kind of made for a weird vibe for the show. So we could have talked about that. We could talk about the VMAs from last week, but honestly, I feel like it's such old news where everything is just kind of like, we could talk about it if you want, but surely by now we've all consumed all of the VMAs related content that we want to. So I decided that for today, since there was nothing like super pressing to be discussed, then we would start our Taylor Swift album deep dives. This is something that you guys have been asking for so long. And I have a couple on my page, but they're all pretty like informal. Like I have my Tortured Poets one that I did with Ashley Reeves, and that one's not that informal. That one's the opposite. That one is actually pretty formal and pretty like, and it has like a real structure to it, which is rare on the I Just Want to Chat podcast. But this, we have like a Speak Now one from a couple years ago. I think I did one, maybe even possibly on Red before, but I'm going to start the series. So every time I don't really have good content for you all, I'm just going to pull it out of thin air. And by thin air, I mean the Taylor Swift discography. So today we're deep diving into Red. Red is one of the most lore-dense pieces of Taylor Swift anything we have. There's a lot of albums, that have big stories, but this is kind of like the sweet spot in Taylor Swift's career of when she was still super like personal and not as private. Like she kind of still had that like, like I'm just gonna air it all out and I'm gonna let the songs not just speak for themselves, but I'm going to tell people the story. I'm going to include liner notes into the album, which is something that she did for every album up until Reputation. Like in the album, she would have all the lyrics written out, and then she would have kind of like these puzzles that you could figure out who each song is about, because she would like leave clues. And Red is kind of the most transparent of all of her albums as far as the liner notes go and the interviews that she did to support it. This is really when she started being photographed heavily. So a lot of songs we can kind of pull from like paparazzi footage and stuff like that. So anyway, if there's ever like an album that I'm sure I have basically all the information and I could give you a true report of like, hey, this is what happened and this is when it happened, it's Red. So that's what makes it really exciting to dive into. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm just going to hop into it. I have some notes here. Let me pull them up because as I mentioned, Red really relies on the liner notes. So kind of how I am going to structure this conversation is we're gonna go subject by subject. So like man by man, which I know it's not very like feminist of me. And I know that we don't like to attribute her music to the men, but with Red, that's kind of the only option we're given. So the best thing to do is not just to go down the track list, but kind of go person by person because the liner notes are all kind of interwoven. And as an example of that, we're just gonna start off with State of Grace. And this is going to start our Jake Gyllenhaal column. So the following songs are about Jake Gyllenhaal. And for me to attribute like a song to a person, I kind of follow my own like two source rule. So I have to have like two pieces of proof to really put it in a column. For example, when I talk about Maddie Healy and I talk about the Tortured Poets department, some of the songs don't outwardly say like the song is about Maddie Healy, but there will be like one or two little crumbs that I can pull from. And a lot of times the crumbs that I'm pulling from are like different hints left in different songs that I have attributed to Maddie, or in this case, to Jake Gyllenhaal. So there will be what I'm trying to say is just walk with me here. There's a method to my madness, and everything that I'm claiming, I feel pretty confident in claiming, A, because there's a lot of proof when it comes to Red, as I mentioned before, and B, I'm, not just pulling these all from my butt or from like where, or like, oh, I really want this song to be attributed to this person. There's a method to my madness. Okay, let's hop in. We're going to start with State of Grace. So State of Grace, it's not a very telling song. It's one of my favorite album openers of hers. But the liner note for State of Grace says, "I love you doesn't count after goodbye." Again, not that very telling, but when you put it in context of the other songs and the stories that she's telling kind of about her relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal and how, he wanted her, but it was too late, or he never really did what she wanted him to do, right? Like when the time was to, act or say, "I love you," whatever. So that kind of puts it in the Jake column. But what really, really seals it for me is that in State of Grace, she says, "Twin fire signs, 4 blue eyes." And in the liner note for Red, the next song, the liner note is SAG, S-A-G, which could mean Screen Actors Guild, but probably means Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. So you're taking the liner note from Red, connecting it to the liner note to, or connecting it to a lyric from Sagittarius. So does that kind of make sense? I know it's like really scrambled, but we're just taking and comparing different lyrics, different liner notes, and different like sources of proof. So State of Grace, definitely about Jake Gyllenhaal. Red, definitely about Jake Gyllenhaal. And then we have Treacherous, which is another game of taking the liner notes and connecting it to other pieces. So Treacherous, one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs of all time, probably my third favorite Taylor Swift song of all time, or maybe my second. I love it so much. And this is like really a slept on song when you think about the lore of her love life and kind of how she's wanted us to learn different things about her. I know that sometimes I come off as a John Mayer apologist, and I don't want to get into it too much right now, but a lot of like the narrative that people will take is that John Mayer like stole her virginity and then like left her in the road or whatever, which is not really the case, because first of all, like the song Treacherous to me reads as a song about somebody, having sex for the first time, losing their virginity. That's what like the words are, at least like that's the way I read them. And also later on in her life, Taylor Swift, when she made All Too Well 10-minute version, she said in an interview at the TIFF Film Festival that the "You Keep My Old Scarf," and the scarf is a metaphor for virginity. So anyway, Treacherous in the liner note says, "Won't stop till it's over." That is connected to a lyric in All Too Well, because it says, "Your sweet disposition." Sweet Disposition is a song, Sweet Disposition is a song from the Temper Trap, and it repeats "won't stop till it's over" many, many times. So that line in All Too Well connects to a liner note in Treacherous that says "won't stop till it's over." So far in the Jake Gyllenhaal column, we have State of Grace, we have Red, we have Treacherous, and of course we have All Too Well. First of all, the liner note for that song is maple lattes, and the big paparazzi photos that we saw of Taylor Swift and Jake Gyllenhaal walking down that street were with maple latte cups. They went to this place, I think it was in Nashville, notorious for their maple lattes. So this was like a very clear, like, you guys know what this is about. And then of course, as the years have gone on, it's basically been confirmed by everyone involved. Like, I don't think Jake Gyllenhaal, he has commented on the 10-minute version, and I think he just said, like, "I'm glad that people are creating art," right? Like, I think it was just kind of a cop-out. Maggie Gyllenhaal has talked about it in like a weird coy way, like when she was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. Questions that he asked her was about the scarf at her house, because the line reads, "I left my scarf at your sister's house and you still got it, blah, 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 blah." Maggie Gyllenhaal is like, "What is it about this scarf? I don't know what she's talking about." And then Of course, later on, Taylor, as I mentioned before, talks about the fact that maybe the scarf is kind of a metaphor for something else.
What can you tell us about the red scarf? Because there must have been a lot of decisions that went into exactly
what can I tell you is the question. Basically, you stop it. Stop it. Basically, the scarf is a metaphor, and we turned it red because red is a very important color in this album, which is called Red.
Right.
And I think when I say it's a metaphor, I'm just going to stop.
Leave it.
And I'm going to say thanks for the incredible question to whoever asked it. You've really taken us for a ride with that one. Thank you.
Scarf question was mine, actually.
All Too Well, it's a very clean, like easy to like confidently say it's about Jake Gyllenhaal song. We don't have to really guess. It's been laid out there. Okay, next we have Sad, Beautiful, Tragic. And the liner note for that song is When You Were on a Train. And guess who was on a train with the band Mumford & Sons for some reason back in 2011? It was Jake Gyllenhaal. He was like traveling on a train with them during their tour, like from like tour stop to tour stop. And yeah. And it's also like one of those songs where it just kind of fits the vibe. What, like, if we listen to all the other songs, who would she possibly be feeling sad, beautiful, and tragic about? Probably not Connor Kennedy, because we only have positive songs about him. And like we have one random positive good song about Joe Jonas on here. You know, like it fits for the Jake Gyllenhaal category. So there's that. Next up we have The Moment I Knew. And it's a pretty clear Jake Gyllenhaal song because it talks about her birthday. We know that they were together during their birthday, or during her birthday, but then he didn't go to the party. She also talks about that in All Too Well 10-minute version, saying like that she's crying at the party. You should be having fun turning 21. And if you put the timeline together, that puts Jake Gyllenhaal in a place where he should be at her party because they were dating during that time when she turned 21. Which actually means that we're talking about like 13 or 14-year-old gossip. So there's that. There's that. Next up, we have I Bet You Think About Me. In I Bet You Think About Me, there's a $1 million couch talked about. And Jake Gyllenhaal had an Architectural Digest something. Like, I don't think it was a normal like video like, hey, AD, do you want to come in and come see my house like those celebrities do? But I do think that there was like a write-up about a very expensive couch that he had. I don't think it was quite $1 million, but a very expensive couch that he had in his New York apartment. That lore interconnects. And also that song connects kind of to the character that's drawn up in We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, which is, you know, very much just like a pop song. Like I put a lot of the Taylor Swift, like Max Martin songs, not so much in like an autobiographical category. I put them more in like a, hey, here's like some hit makers going into a studio together to write an album, and they're going to do it, and they're just going to kind of like riff on like these fun concepts. But as far as her Max Martin, Johann Shellback produced songs go, again, they're not that personal, but We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together probably is one of the more personal ones, and that's saying a lot. But that character that she's kind of drawing of some dude that thinks he's too cool and thinks that he's probably better than her, whatever, really coincides with the character that's also created in I Bet You Think About Me. There's that. That about rounds it up for the Jake Gyllenhaal category. I've been working on a video for TikTok. Like I've been like trying to make notes of who has the most songs written about them in like the Taylor Swift lexicon. And I think that Jake Gyllenhaal is in third place. I think, according to my calculations as of right now, I'm going through album by album and I'm writing notes for each one. Fun fact, nobody stole my idea. I'm afraid to say it out loud. But surely somebody has had this idea before, but nobody's done it. I have a dream of like writing a coffee table book about what each of these songs are about. I just need to figure out like legally, like if you're allowed to do that. But like people write history books all the time, right? So if I just write it like a history book, and I mean, I have nothing but free time with my 4 young children and my business and my other job and everything. So I could write a book. But anyway, I've been trying to tally up who has like the most songs written about them in Taylor Swift, you know, the cinematic Taylor Swift universe. And Maddie Healy is number 1. I think Harry Styles is number 2. And then it goes to Jake Gyllenhaal with spot number 3. So those are the Jake Gyllenhaal songs. Congratulations, we all made it through it. He probably inspired some of her best work, right? I mean, there's a conversation to be had that like if we want to talk about her best work being like autobiographically real and raw, we could say it's Maddie Healy, but of course, like inspiring the song All Too Well pretty much says that he's inspired the best work, right? Because that is her most revered and most critically acclaimed song. Joe Jonas snuck his way onto this album, surprisingly. In the song Holy Ground, the liner note says, "When you saw me in SD," meaning San Diego. And when she did the Speak Now tour, Joe Jonas went to the tour in San Diego. So that one's an easy one to kind of play back. And before the Sophie Turner, everything happened last summer. Like before their divorce, they were very like on well terms. Like they traveled together when he was dating Gigi Hadid. And then in Invisible String, she talks about how she bought a present for one of her ex-boyfriend's babies. And that baby was him and Sophie Turner's first baby, Willa. And I know that, A, because it's on the internet, but B, because Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner had a baby 1 month before my baby Rooney was born, and Willa was on my baby name list. And then I remember when that name was announced, I was like, well, dang it. The celebrity just used it and it's going to get so popular now. And it really didn't. It didn't get that popular, and I wonder if that's because it was proven that, not proven, but you know, it was portrayed to us through the media that Joe Jonas might not be a good dude. Anyway, there's that. Holy Ground is about Joe Jonas. Don't you guys love my brain? Because I just keep rambling about random stuff, and I always have a talent for relating topics to my children and my pregnancies and my life. So there's that. Anyway, next up we have Harry Styles. Before you tussle with me, before you fight with me, let me just say, I can already hear the comments every single time I talk about Harry Styles or this album on TikTok or anywhere. People say, they weren't dating in Red. Like, none of your videos make any sense because you think that I Knew You Were Trouble was about Harry Styles. Yes, they did. So the Taylor Swift Harry Styles timeline as it pertains to Red is as follows. They dated right after Speak Now had come out, like a little tiny fling where they met each other at one of these award shows. It was Kids' Choice. They meet each other. It does not go well. It's written up about. They had a little fling, and then things ended. From there, she writes Red, and she writes all these songs about Jake Gyllenhaal. She had dated Jake Gyllenhaal. She had done all these other things. She writes I Knew You Were Trouble about Harry Styles, allegedly. Red comes out. She's dating Harry Styles officially now. They are walking through New York City together and whatever. They have New Year's Eve together. There's like this iconic video of them ringing in the new year together. And Taylor Swift like grabs Harry Styles in the middle of Times Square and just starts like macking on him, which to me inspired the song Question from Midnights, but that's neither here nor there. That's a different conversation for a different day. They then break up sometime in January of 2012. And then from there, she writes all of 1989 and, you know, releases 1989 with all these Harry Styles songs. She wins a MTV VMA award. I think that's what it was. It was somewhere in Europe, or maybe it was a Brit award. She won some kind of English award where Harry Styles is in the audience. She wins an award for the song I Knew You Were Trouble and for the video I Knew You Were Trouble. And she says, I want to like think who the song is about because you know exactly who you are. And she says that looking at Harry Styles. The camera's on Harry. Harry's trying to look anywhere but the camera.
And this is just awesome. I also want to thank the person who inspired this song, who knows exactly who he is, because now I got one of these. Thank you so much.
So there's that. There's all those reasons to believe that the song is about Harry because of their brief fling, that she had while creating the Red album that fizzled out. And then we get the bulk of the Harry Styles content with the 1989 album. I know that that's so confusing. I wish I was like somebody that had a whiteboard and could, you know, draw it all out. But that would somehow be more confusing, I think, because my handwriting is so horrendous. But there's that. So I Knew Your Trouble is in the Harry Styles category column. Next up, we have Connor Kennedy. Connor Kennedy, in the like pantheon of all Taylor Swift music, is kind of considered as the person who got the best treatment, right? He got treated better than anybody else and had like the kindest songs written about him. But there were really only 2 songs written about him. So there's Everything Has Changed. Oh, and by the way, Connor Kennedy, brother of Kick Kennedy, who we talked about on the podcast a couple weeks ago, who was dating Ben Affleck, but probably isn't anymore because it seems like Ben and Jen are back together. So brother of Kick Kennedy, son of RFK Jr. And the story goes is that Scott Swift, Taylor Swift's dad, kind of wanted her to go and date somebody in the Kennedy family. They tried to set her up with Patrick Schwarzenegger, who his mom is a Kennedy, or she's, what's her real last name? She married Maria Shriver is Patrick Schwarzenegger's mom. Maria Shriver is a Kennedy, and then I'm sure a different last name through some kind of marriage. They wanted her to date Patrick. That didn't work. So she goes for his younger 17-year-old cousin. But then when they started dating, I think everything was above board and he was 18, I believe. Because she was 22 or 23 at this point. They start dating. They're all over the Kennedy compound together. They crash a wedding together, which, you know, made people very angry in the Kennedy family. She buys a house to be near him. And then she ends up settling in a different house, the Holiday House in Rhode Island. That's kind of like the lore. This relationship didn't end up working out, but we got good songs out of it because she wrote Everything Has Changed. And the liner note for that song is Hyannis Port, which is a place that we saw pictures of Connor and Taylor together. And then the next song that we know is about him is Begin Again. And the liner note for that one says, I wear heels now. And the album ends kind of on that like positive, hopeful note, which is kind of a way that Taylor ends a lot of her albums. Like her breakup albums, she'll kind of be like, but then look, here's a little bit of introspection, you know, or here's a little bit of positivity. It's not all doom and gloom, even though a majority of the album was. So the liner note is I wear heels now. He's taller than her, so maybe that's what that means. And I don't think that Jake Gyllenhaal was much taller than her, so maybe that was a sick burn for Jake Gyllenhaal. But it just kind of tells the story of I was in this bad relationship and now I'm in this like nice, easier one with a guy that I don't feel like I have to impress. So very nice. There's Starlight, which is about Ethel Kennedy. The liner note says for Ethel, so we know it's about her. That's Connor Kennedy's grandma, and it's a song that I don't listen to often. The chorus is kind of fun, but it is kind of like, oh, so you're writing a song about Ethel Kennedy. All right. Why are we doing this, you know? It was her first, like, exploration into this, like, creative, random, like, storytelling writing. It was, like, her first, like, tiptoe into that world before folklore. So maybe if we didn't have Starlight, the Ethel Kennedy ode, we wouldn't have the August, Betty, and James saga. So maybe we should all just sit down and be grateful for it. Next up, we have Come Back, Be Here. So the song is about Eddie Redmayne. On the bonus tracks of this album, so I'm talking everything from like the TV, like extra tracks, but I'm also talking about these Target bonus tracks, which were The Moment I Knew, Girl at Home, and Come Back, Be Here. Those songs do not have liner notes. So we're just kind of inferring things from the text only and then from other like cultural references. So Come Back, Be Here. Taylor Swift was once in the running to play Eponine in Les Mis, which I love the girl. Les Mis is one of my favorite movies ever. I'm very glad that that didn't happen. I'm very, very, very glad that that didn't happen. And she talked about it a few years ago because she was on a talk show with Eddie Redmayne, like one of those ones in Europe. I think it's just like a UK show where, what is it? Graham Norton, I think that's his show, where he has all the celebrities on at the same time. Then he talks to them one by one, and then people can kind of like interject their own things. She was on it with Eddie Redmayne, and she talked about how she had met Eddie Redmayne before because they were both auditioning for this thing.
Weirdly, Taylor and Eddie, you have worked together.
We have.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It was a decade ago.
I once died in his arms in a screen test for Les Mis.
Oh, wow. I did not know this.
Yeah,
I did not know this.
There's a lot that people don't know about this story. Basically, I was auditioning for 2 roles in Les Mis, and I'd done a few auditions and gone to New York and whatever, and I think it had been established that I had more of a look of Cosette, but I had the range vocally of Eponine, so it was established that, like, I was there for a good time, not a long time. I wasn't gonna get this role. But they were like, you know, do you wanna come to London for one last screen test and you'll get to screen test with Eddie Redmayne? I'm like, this seems like an experience I wanna have in my life. You're like one of my favorite actors. You're so ridiculously talented. Oh. And I was like, so yeah, I'll go to London. Like,
Yes, indeed.
So I get there, and they're like, okay, so we really want to like make you look like Eponine. We're gonna try to do it's the, you know, she wasn't like loaded. She had brown teeth. You know, like she didn't have a lot of money, so.
A 19th century street urchin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to say it in a way that makes sense, but.
She didn't floss.
Exactly. So they were like, we're actually gonna paint your teeth brown for this. And I'm like, so you're gonna do that after I meet Eddie Redmayne, right? That's not something you do before. I get to meet people and then you do the brown teeth. They're like, no, it's this is just everybody's gonna meet you with the brown teeth, and we're gonna like do like big circles under your eyes, like you're near death. And I was like, this has immediately become a nightmare for me. And so then I had, you know, you were so nice, but I think when I met you, I was like, it's so nice to meet you.
What was hilarious was, you know, as you walked in as a 19th century French street urchin. And I was not expecting that, but my overwhelming memory of it, Taylor, was I'd just been to Pizza Express beforehand, and I'd had some garlic dough balls. Oh, God. I thought we were going to be singing off with each other, you know, but they had us. Also, it was so weird, because Taylor was dressed fully as Eponine, and I was, like, in my tracksuit. And they had us on the floor, like, singing Sweet Nothings into each other, and all I knew is I just had garlic bread.
And I had brown teeth, so we're just
it was one of these, it was like trying to show emotion, whilst at the same time not to punish you.
You were weeping, and I just thought it was because of how I looked. You felt so bad. You're like, I have to be close to her right now. This is, yeah.
Oh, this was not the method, no?
No.
It's nice to hear we were both struggling in that moment.
And she says, like, I wasn't going to get the part, but they had brought me in. The story goes is that they had their chemistry read, and they met each other in England, and they hit it off. She was into him. It didn't really ever go anywhere, but the song is just kind of like, bet you're in London, I'm over here, I wish we could be together. So we're putting that one in the Eddie Redmayne category, and I don't think that one's ever been like denied, so there's that. Next up we have Girl at Home, which people say it's about Zac Efron and how they were like doing the Lorax together. He wanted to get with her, but he was still kind of involved with Vanessa Hudgens. The timing doesn't fit for me. People really say that that song is about Zac Efron, but when you look at it, I don't think that they were ever in a room together to perform the Lorax. I don't think that they were ever acting in the same room. I think that they probably weren't like working together until the promo tour. And the promo tour for the Lorax, I think, coincided with the release of Red. So I don't think that happened. But if we want to say that the song that pretty much everybody skips is about Zac Efron, sure. I am not afraid to have a good time, so that's fine with me. It is kind of interesting that the Taylor's versions of all of these re-records are supposed to be as close to carbon copies of the original songs as possible, right? Because the whole goal of the Masters project, of the Taylor's version project, is to make the stolen versions of the songs, they're trying to make them worthless. That's what I should say. So if you closely record the song and people can say, hey, I'm going to pull from either the Taylor's version or from the original, most people will pull from the Taylor's version, right? Unless we're talking about style, because style, Taylor's version does not hit in the same way. They need to get back in the lab on that one. But anyway, it's funny because Girl at Home is this kind of like a universally skipped song. I think it was in the top 10 worst songs on that like big Rolling Stone list that they made about like ranking all the Taylor Swift songs. I think that was in like the worst category. When she came out with the Taylor's versions, she didn't even try to keep it similar. She was like, all right, well, we'll just try with this like fun remix instead, because she knows that that's how much of an emotional connection that people have to that song. Next up, we just have the miscellaneous category. So we're talking about 22, which is about turning 22. The liner note says, I can't remember everybody's name, but I know it says Selena, Diana, and then a couple other people. So girls that she was friends with at the time. But that's another one of those, like she's in the studio with Max Martin and they're coming up with a song and they're just, they're songwriting. So that's 22. Stay, Stay, Stay. Some have tried to attribute that to John Mayer. I don't see it. Nothing in the text supports that. But I'm just saying that that's a random pop song with like a cool concept. Like you walked in wearing a football helmet and said, okay, let's talk. Cool. I don't think that we could really attribute that to anyone. Next up, we have The Lucky One. It's pretty known that the song is a thinly veiled reference to Joni Mitchell. Back in this time, Taylor was in the running to play Joni Mitchell in like a biopic about Joni Mitchell. And then it was reported that Joni Mitchell put the kibosh on it. She didn't want Taylor to be playing her. And also I think that the biopic just fizzled out in general due to creative reasons. So The Lucky One kind of tells a tale of how it sucks to be famous, and if this is your dream, you're going to give up certain things, and blah, 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 blah. So that's Joni Mitchell. Ronan is a song that I've listened to maybe 3 times in my life. I can't do it. It's too sad. It's about a little boy named Ronan who tragically passed away of cancer. And never mind, I don't want to get into it. A political party recently people from this one political party took this picture of Taylor Swift crying after she sung Ronan and said that oh, look, this is Taylor Swift crying because Donald Trump tweeted that he hates Taylor Swift. But in reality, that's like a 14-year-old photo, and it's really nasty that you would take a picture of somebody crying because a child died and say that they're crying because they're emotionally affected by Donald Trump tweeting out, I hate Taylor Swift. So there's that. Welcome to the I Just Want to Chat podcast, where I keep things super fun and light, such as talking about politics and children who have tragically passed. Anyway, that's Ronan. Next up, we have Nothing New. This is actually a song that we knew about before it came out. So when she was releasing the Lover album, one of the selling points for these deluxe versions, since none of the albums had, she didn't do secret Target tracks or bonus tracks if you buy this vinyl, but what she did do was if you buy the Target deluxe version, then you get some of my old journal entries, and then there were other places where you could buy these special albums, and then it would have special journal entries. One of the special journal entries was her talking about how she was starting to worry that now as she gets older, she will be tossed out, and nobody will think that her talents are special anymore, because so much of her praise had once been about and can you believe that she's doing this at 20, at 21, and she's writing her own songs and she's doing all of this. So in that journal, she said, these are my fears, so I wrote the song called Nothing New. So we always kind of knew about it, but we didn't really know where it was going to fall, if it was going to fall as a Speak Now bonus track, or if it was going to fall with Red or even 1989. So when the Red Taylor's version album tracks came out, we were all very excited to see that Nothing New was on there. And even more excited that it was a Phoebe Bridgers song. And this song famously kind of responded to some criticisms. Taylor has notoriously worked with not that many female artists as a collaborator. She'll have Soon You'll Get Better featuring the Dixie Chicks, or I think it's just the Chicks. But I think on the album it will say Dixie Chicks. I think this was before name change. Anyway, but like they don't really sing. You can't, like they don't have their own verse, right? And it wasn't until this song where like any woman had ever had like a solo on a Taylor Swift track. Any featured player in any female featured player in any Taylor Swift song up until this point was just like a backup singer. So that's like something that makes Nothing New kind of cool. Next up we have Better Man. This one could be about Jake Gyllenhaal. She wrote the song for, what band was this? Not the band Perry. That's the When I Die Young people. Is that Cam? No, that's just a woman. Oh my goodness. Now this is gonna drive me nuts. Little Big Town. There we go. Sorry for that. She wrote it for Little Big Town. It could be about Jake Gyllenhaal. It could not be. Who knows? But I think that that's probably her just trying to write a marketable song, because this was when she was trying to do some songwriting for other people. Same with the song Babe. I think she was just trying to do something that could be marketed to different people. And she was in the music video for Babe, and I think that the song was featuring Taylor Swift. So there's that. Then next up we have Random Pop Songs, which is Message in a Bottle. That's the first song that she did with Max Martin and Johann Shellback. And to me, that's just them getting in the studio and just like experimenting together with random concepts. Same with The Very First Night. A lot of people want to say that the song is not written in the Red era, which I do believe. I do believe that a lot of these songs are not actually written in the eras, and like I don't think that they're always actually demos. I do think that there may be like just songs that are inspired by that time, but like especially when you start looking at 1989, some of those songs are just too good and would not have been left off of an album. I guarantee it. Is It Over Now? That's not just going to be a demo. That one would have been on the album. So I think that those were written after the fact. Sometimes these songs, I think that that's the case too. Like these are just like some extra bonus songs. But people think that The Very First Night has some ties to Karlie Kloss. I don't know. I'm not always on that train with all of you. I'm not a Karlie Kloss truther. I do have 2 highlights on my Instagram that go through like the whole history of them, but I don't know. But I don't think that song, The Very First Night, is about Karlie Kloss, but other people on the internet will tell you. And then the song Run is just kind of a trial song with Ed Sheeran. Like, I think that was one of the first that they wrote together. And it's another song that I've listened to maybe a handful of times because I don't like it. And then Forever Winter is actually a song where the family of the person that might have inspired the song has asked people not to talk about it. So to avoid people being mad at me, I'm going to avoid talking about it. That gets us through Red. I hope that wasn't too painful for all of you. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry that I keep scratching my face. And yeah, so anyway, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the I Just Want to Chat podcast. And I think I will leave our chatter boxes for next week's episode when it's like a more general pop culture episode, just so nobody misses their questions getting answered. So from this point forward, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to attach a clip of a interview that I did this last week in Hawaii. Last week I got to go to Hawaii thanks to Silhouette, which is a company. They make those cool, but like those cutting machines, like those cool printers that you can make like all these cool crafts with. And they invited me out to come see some of their products. It was so fun because I got to bring my husband and I got to bring a production assistant, which was my sister, and she brought her husband, and we had like the best vacation of my entire life. I'm still like in disbelief that any of it happened. It was just so great. But they invited me out to go check out some of their products and to make a video for the podcast. So I'm going to attach that here if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on here, and now you're hearing my daughter saying, "Mommy, can I go outside?" So I'm going to end this now, and we're going to see you next week. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you're looking for the Silhouette video, go to YouTube. I'll link it in my Instagram stories as well, so you can go watch and see. All right, Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
We are here at the Silhouette Summit. I'm here with Autumn.
Hello.
She is a silhouette expert, and she's going to teach us about these machines. So as you guys know, I'm not a crafter. I keep saying that in all my videos. I'm not really like in this space, but last year I came to Silhouette Summit and I got a Cameo 5, and I have used it for so many things this year, and things that I like never would have even thought that I could like create on my own. I would normally just like buy them off of Etsy, but I've saved money this year and I've been creative and I've made cute stuff. So I was excited to be invited back this year so we could come look at these machines and I could preach the good word to all of you, so then all of you guys could start like making cute stuff at home. So Autumn, I want you to walk us through these machines and tell us kind of like what each would be used for and like what kind of crafter. So this is the little guy, right? This is kind of like the intro machine.
Yes, so this is the portrait. It cuts letter-sized material, so it's perfect for sticker paper, you know, pretty simple, smaller crafts like that. And then the Cameo 5 is kind of a little bit of a more advanced version with a larger cutting width, and the electrostatic mat. Obsessed, right?
Okay. Can we explain what the electrostatic mat does real quick? Because I came here last year, and this was the thing that blew me away the most. I think that you guys need to license this to NASA, and you need to like get this everywhere. What is it?
So, with normal cutting mats, it uses an adhesive to stick the material, which can cause tearing and make the material less clean. So what this does is when you turn it on, it's not plugged in right now, but in theory, when you turn it on, it magnetizes and uses an electrostatic layer to just hold the material in place so that you can just turn it off and remove it really easily.
So like when you are like putting a balloon on your hair, like did you ever do that when you were a kid? Like to see if it would like stick? I don't know why I'm explaining static electricity to all of you as if you've never heard of the concept, but in theory, static electricity is keeping the stuff on here.
Yes.
So I don't have one of these, and although I've like loved using my Silhouette at home, once you like get everything cut and then you're trying to like take your craft and put it onto like your shirt or whatever you want to do, you have to like weed it off of the sticky paper, which I mean, it's not like too inconvenient, but the fact that this exists and then like takes away that whole step, so convenient. So if you're like using your Silhouette often, I feel like that's totally worth it. Okay, what kind of things would you make with this machine versus this one?
This is really good for cutting vinyl. So if you want to do, you know, heat transfer vinyl or regular vinyl to apply to, you know, cups, shirts, anything like that. It's also really great with the electrostatic mat to cut cardstock because, you know, it just peels right off and this paper sticks really, really well.
Oh, nice.
So it makes it clean and easy.
So if I was making like a window cling or something, I would use this.
Yes.
Right? And if I was, let me think of other crafts. What have I done this year? So I made a window cling once. I made like stuff for like my kids' Halloween costumes. So I'd be using this. Okay, perfect. All right, and then over here is a Curio 2. Tell me about this big boy.
So this can do everything that the other two machines can do, but it also lets you cut thicker materials and it has more tools. So the Cameo 5 and the Portrait can use, you know, the heat pen and some of our tools, but the Power Engraver is a Curio 2 exclusive, and we just announced a new size for that, so keep an eye out for that. And you can also do, you know, just thicker materials, so if you want to engrave on acrylic, things like that are a little bit more complex.
You know what I think that this would be really good for is if you are planning a wedding. I see people spend so much freaking money on like these like custom little acrylic things on Etsy, and you're probably spending more than you would by just buying this machine and doing it yourself, and then you could make your cute little acrylics for years to come. Okay, then I think that this is a machine last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you made me a dog tag last year. I'm pointing at my new friend April. So last year, April made me a dog tag. It was on this machine, right? It was. So it's like a little like metal engraver like you would find at Walmart when you like walk in and they have the little kiosk. You don't even need to go to the Walmart kiosk anymore. You could do it at your house with the Curio. Okay, what's like the most ambitious thing that you can make with this?
Ooh, I think something that I'm really excited about is the leather carving knife that we just announced, so that you can actually like carve different details into leather, so you can make custom keychains, wallets, things like that. That'll be really, really beautiful. So
Imagine having the ability to not have to go on Etsy every time you need like a sentimental Father's Day gift instead of like buying the
right.
here's like all of your grandkids' names, like little like luggage tag.
Just make
You
it.
could just make it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and then you guys unveiled this yesterday.
Yes.
This is so cute. I don't know why I'm holding it up like it's a pizza or a prize, but I just felt inclined to do it because it is cute and it looks like a little. Sorry, my mic is probably going crazy. It looks like a little handbag.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
So fun.
They made me walk a runway yesterday. They like unveiled all of these. They had the women walk a runway holding this, and then later on in the conference, they had a runway set up. Then I had to.
You did a much better job on the runway than we did.
I definitely wouldn't claim that. I felt very awkward, but I was willing to do it to hold one of these little bad boys. So, again, I shouldn't have picked it up. I should have left it over here. Tell me what this is and what it does.
This is our new heat press. It's called the Cloche.
Very
Has
cute.
a 10x6 heating area, so it's really great for all projects, you know, shirts. You can put it on towels, things like that, and it's just a really perfect size.
Can we show it opened up?
Yeah, let's do that. And it comes in super cute colors. I love this pink, and it has a green and an off-white option as well.
All right, so it kind of looks like a panini press, which makes me really excited. So this is used instead of like an iron, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so instead of like you taking your heat transfer and then like putting your iron on it, you would just put it in the heat press, close it. Cool feature, they have this button where instead of like putting something and then work, is this on?
Not currently.
This feels very hot.
It was on earlier.
Okay. I was just about to touch it.
Still
and
cooling
then
down.
Luckily, like there was something in my brain that was like, Mary, not a good idea. Anyway, this has this like release button that you have to press in order to push it down.
Yes.
Because when you guys were explaining it, I was like, I know what's going to happen to me. I'm going to put something down and then it's going to fall in my hand. Just because things like that happen to me. As you just saw, I almost was tempted to touch it while it was hot. And then I had to ask you, is this hot? Even though we know that heat, I could feel it. I know that it's hot. Anyway, it has this feature where you have to press it down. So it's not going to fall down on you, which is very nice. Okay. And then it has a built-in timer.
Yes.
And 3 heat settings.
Yes. So you can do low, medium, or high, and also anywhere in between. So you have a really good range of temperatures that you can do. And once you close and latch it, it sets an automatic 45-second timer.
Perfect.
It's great.
Amazing. All right. Real quick rundown. The portrait is for, would you say this is kind of a beginner if you're trying to make new stuff?
Be, yeah.
Beginner, this one or this one?
These are pretty similar, but this is really great for, you know, the sticker makers, people who want to do just a little bit of a smaller project.
Okay. Does this fit a full-size sheet of paper?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then what's like the coolest thing that you can make on this?
Gosh, you can make so much fun stuff. It comes with a roll feeder too, so it's great for, you know, feeding in the vinyl, or you can cut, like we said, paper. You can make, I've seen a lot of people make like paper flowers with it.
Okay, I saw paper flowers yesterday. Cannot believe that you can make that.
Gorgeous.
Okay, and also, is this the machine that has the pen holder?
Yes, you can add the pen holder to the Cameo 5 and the Curio 2.
Okay, and explain what the pen holder does, because I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, it's so fun. So in Carriage 2, you can put in the pen holder, and basically what you can do is, we just announced one that fits, you know, Sharpies and things like that. So fun. But you put in your pen of size. We have lots of different size options, so you can kind of fit a lot of different things. And then it'll draw whatever design you have loaded in the software.
Incredible, especially for someone that has horrific handwriting like me. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I could actually make something that looks handwritten,
right,
but not horrifying.
Impress your friends. Tell them you learned calligraphy. They'll
Yes.
never know.
Okay, if you're my friend in the future watching this and you see some calligraphy, just skip this part because I did it myself, not with the Cameo 5. Anyway. Yes. Oh yes, total time saver. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would never even think to do that. Okay, my Christmas card season will never be the same because I have this machine and that's what I will do. Because yeah, I've had things returned to sender before because my handwriting is like so bad and my 5s look like 3s and nothing's great. But no more. I have no more excuses for things getting lost in the mail. Anyway, Autumn, you are awesome. Thank you so much. And Silhouette, I just want to say thank you for letting me come out here. Oh, wait, my sister Amy is like motioning at her favorite thing.
Yes.
I forgot.
Can't forget about this.
I cannot. Okay, this has a professional sounding name because it's professional, correct?
This is the Cameo Pro Mark II. So we had a previous Pro that had the 24-inch cutting width, but this is an updated, more advanced version of that.
Nice. So who's like the target audience for this?
It's really great for business owners if you're kind of making a large quantity of projects and crafts. It's great, especially with the stand, because when you're doing longer materials or you want to just feed the whole roll through, it'll hold it in the front and then catch it in the back to make sure that nothing gets stuck on the ground, dirty.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's the best.
When I saw this yesterday, I told my sister, I said, I feel like every school in America needs one of these.
Yeah.
Our teachers deserve it because I know that they're at home with their silhouettes, like trying to make stuff.
Right?
This
And
would be so good. Yes, it would fit.
So
It has this nice roller stand. It's perfect. Anyway, here, let's head back over here. Okay, I really love everything that I've seen. Again, not a crafter. I know I've said it so many times, but they have converted me. And there are things that I've made this last year that I never would have thought that I could make by myself. And I made them with this. I have the Cameo 5, which I've said 14 times now. But anyway, just want to say thank you to Silhouette. Thank you for having me out here in Hawaii to come see all these cool machines. And to meet everybody that's been here has been so fun and so fantastic, and I've learned so much. So anyway, and thank you, Autumn.
Thank you.
All right, now on with the show.